What's up, y'all? You want real? Check this out. This is episode 76 of In the Image Clothing Company podcast. My name is Evan Strong, the founder of In the Image Clothing Company. We're going to get into it if you want to hear a cool story. A cool story just because of the impact of what I'm going to be using this for, what I've been, given, even if I didn't want it. All right, stick around. We'll talk about it. I'll do an intro with Frank the guitar. We'll do what we do, and I got this little manila envelope here we'll talk about. That's what we're going to do for the intro. This is Frank the guitar, my little Yamaha CGS 102A with a custom radius that I have done to him. He might be in my lap. I might play him a little bit here and there. We'll keep the capo on the 3rd fret for now. Now, shout out to lawsuits. In all seriousness. We'll get into it. I got this beautiful thing to deal with. Well, today, let me give a little context, and we'll get into this on the dates of things. Today is the 5th of March, 2025. It's a Wednesday, the 5th of March, 2025. I got in a car wreck on the 26th of August, 2024. That's a year and a half ago. And then on February 27th, 2025, we're talking just about 6 days ago, says this sticky note from my mother. It says, this email came 6 days ago with my name right there before that. And just a little transparency, I actually knew that I got an email as well as my mother. We're both people whose emails they had, the people involved in all this. But I didn't want to do anything about it. Because I don't need to. Because it's a year and a half later. And we'll get into this. I'll complain all that I do, but also I'm just talking about it as it is. It's ridiculous. Okay? But here at In the Image Clothing Company podcast, we have discussions on the gospel of Jesus Christ. And so I'm not going to just sit here and complain about some worldly thing that went on. But we're going to talk about this. This is episode 75, and the title is Back to Bite. Because sometimes we got things that we dealt with. And we addressed everything we had to do on our part, but then later down the road they come back to bite us, and we'll get into what we do. I'm gonna talk about the truth of this. I don't have some kind of opinion. I'll own up to whatever I did, but I already did that. I mean, we had the whole thing. I dealt with the police. I dealt with the people here. I turned in my answer statement to this lawsuit that came up. I already did what I got to do, and this is ridiculous. If we're really talking about the truth of it, right, I'm going to get into the whole story. And again, it's not my opinion. I don't care to try to get out of anything. I want to own up to everything I did, but I have, and I got video proof from the accident site of the vehicle coming in, the way that I will discuss what happened. And there was also an eyewitness that talks about it. Also, my ticket got waived that I did get for what happened, because then once the truth of what actually came to the surface, however I worded that, just you know what I mean. Hopefully, I don't care to hope for anything, but I just sure wish, but I'm not wishing. It's just annoying that things come back to bite. So I might sound like I'm yelling at this little cell phone through this episode, but cool. Hang out. This is just ridiculous. People deal with this all the time. Lawsuit stuff. People trying to get money over things. People trying to change the events of what actually happened to make it be something else so that they can get whatever from it. Cool. The world. Turn your back on it. Now, I'll do whatever I gotta do, and it's just what happens. We'll get into it, but yes, the gospel of Jesus Christ is the truth of all things. Don't believe me, right? Before I get into any of this, you don't gotta believe my side of any of my story. You don't have to believe anything that I ever talk about within In the Image Clothing Company and what we do, which I'll give a little rundown of what our company is for the first few minutes here. We'll talk about clothing for the first few minutes as we do, and then we'll get into the discussion of back to bite. Back to bite. But yeah. Anyway, I'm the founder of In the Image Clothing Company, and there's 3 sides to us, right? Oh, but when I said don't believe me, I just mean I always talk about how truth is truth. It's apart from all of us. I can sit here and talk about anything that I do and try to get anyone to believe anything, but please don't. But just take the truth within what I talk about, and that's what you need. You don't got to care about my words. I don't got to care about his words or her words, and vice versa, and vice versa. And we get stuck in vices that might grip us, and then they let go, and then later they come back to bite. We'll get into this. So, 3 sides to In the Image Clothing Company. We have this here. I discussed what this is. Okay, In the Image Clothing Company podcast. Discussions on the truth of all things. The gospel of Jesus Christ. The only thing that we actually need. If we can put all our worldly desires aside and we can put ourselves aside. Get behind yourself a little bit. Shout out to episode 74 of In the Image Clothing Company podcast. Titled Being Behind Yourself. But the main side of In the Image Clothing Company, you can see where I'm at within this. I got this whole thing about, I don't want to have to deal with this because I don't have to deal with this because I already did. And it was already a lot to just do that I didn't do. Meaning I wasn't the thing that caused these things, but I already dealt with it all. I already did stuff. It's been 1.5 years since this car accident. My car got entirely totaled. If I sound bitter, if I sound complainy, like I'm saying, take it for what it is. Think I'm just complaining. That's fine. Please do if you do. I mean, think whatever you think authentic to you. That's what I mean. Believe whatever you don't want to. Meaning, please don't. It's just so frustrating. So if I'm all over the place, dog, and I'm talking kind of quick, and I throw some random beatboxing in here and there, if I grab Frank the guitar to kind of break up the tension of just the annoyance that I got to deal with things that keep coming back to me at certain times, and in very specific times, let me be very clear, talk about the gospel of Jesus Christ, that's what we do. If I'm kind of all over the place with the emotions, there's a lot going on right now in my life. No kind of complaints other than maybe I am. So, cool. The main side of In the Image Clothing Company, we talk about the anatomy of the human body. The whole goal physically, meaning separation from spiritual, right, the gospel of Jesus Christ, to physical, the human fleshly being in its earthly existence. Physically, In the Image Clothing Company's focus and main point of doing anything is keyword allowing the body to work. The human body, it only does what it does. I understand the human body in depth. We talk about it from the skeletal system, though, because the fat content just comes and goes, yo. Right? You can get all caught up on the muscle mass you want and anything, but the body's about a foundation, just like within the gospel of Jesus Christ. Our foundation is built on the rock of our everything. You can put any word in there. The rock of our salvation, the rock that is our Redeemer, the rock of anything that you want to say, but Jesus Christ himself. Within the body, the skeletal system just has its natural foundational position. And from there, it can just do everything correct. But clothing is the only thing placed onto the human being. And it can very, 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 very much alter the body. And it does. So we talk about it. We talk about the body, though. Sitting naturally, standing naturally, eating naturally, sleeping naturally, hydration, what it means to be hydrated and how to. All the things that we talk about within the body's function and just how to stay unaltered, right? The goal is natural. The key word is allow. In the Image Clothing Company. Now, we talk about a lot of that over there. Free modifications we show within clothing. But the body, I'm gonna do this whole intro kind of quick because I just feel like I should. I'm feeling prompted to. So the body has a center line. There's no opinion to it. There's a spine. If clothing's imbalanced at all, it's just going to alter the body from its only workings. The body should always be activated as a whole. And so oversized clothing, imbalances within clothing will alter the body for everybody. Man, woman, tall, short, skinny, fat, any age, any part of the globe, any time period. If you're a human being, your clothing needs to be where your pant waistline is above your hips all the way. So it's entirely unrestricting to those hip functions. All the things that the pelvis will do, right? Keeping the spine neutral, keeping the lower legs activated, keeping the core muscles activated. And in order to have that happen, the waistband needs to be slightly higher in the front than it does in the rear. That's just how we're going to let our whole body stay neutral, okay? I'm not going to get into so much discussion as I was just saying a minute ago, but I talk about these things as and where I do within In the Image Clothing Company. You can go hear me discuss all this stuff about the anatomy of the body in depth, okay? Now, the tops that we wear, doesn't matter what it is, but the seams on top of our shoulders need to be evenly behind the little bones that are on the peak of the shoulders up there. That's how we keep our shoulders in their neutral position behind the body. When I said it doesn't matter what it is, button-ups are different. They have a band of material rather than a singular seam, so they just naturally sit back there. And the edge seams of the shoulder should be right at the edges where that ball and socket joint is of the shoulder capsule. Now, the Image Clothing Company has two things we call prerequisites, additional to just normal clothing attire like tops and bottoms. Shoelacing. You weave a rope on top of the human foot. It has to be shaped the only way the human foot is on the top of it, because there is only one way, and that is in the Image Clothing Company shoelacing technique, found wherever you find us. It's 2025, as I mentioned, and going forth, we probably will have the internet or some kind of way that you can find that. With that, though, we tie our shoes evenly over toward the inside on both feet to the center line that is there. No opinion that anyone could have. It just is. Now, secondly, we remove all tags from clothing. Anywhere tags placed within clothing, it's causing a physical gap, altering the skeletal system's only working position, and or it's just being pressed against musculature and sensory activation wise, like the nervous system of the body won't let the musculature activate against something that's not comfortable, right? Like a tag. So that includes within the tongues of the shoes or anywhere inside them throughout all clothing. Now let's get into this. That was the intro as quick as it is. That's probably one of the quickest ones I've ever done. We're on episode 76 of In the Image Clothing Company podcast. Welcome back. So, some things come back to bite. Let me talk about something for a minute or two before I really get into this, because, meaning, let me give a little bit of precursor, a little bit of context from this experience of mine. I've had 3 Nissan Xterras, and I love them. That car as what it is. I love them. They're so capable. They're so cool. They're great. They don't get the best gas mileage. I'll tell you that. I got 15 miles per gallon average. Well, 15 to 17 miles per gallon is usually right around where it would sit, just with the driving that I did. Just about no matter what, even if it was highway driving, get somewhere right around 17. I mean, I don't know if I really ever got above 17 miles per gallon with those vehicles, seriously. But I had my 3rd Nissan Xterra. It was awesome. It was kind of tricked out, quote unquote. Stickers, aftermarket rally mud flaps. It had a roof rack on the top of it that I put there. It had its factory roof lights because it was the off-road trim. This one was a 2010 model. It also had ditch lights that I put on the hood. It had this black hood decal that was like custom done by me on the hood. It had stripes coming like horizontally, or no, kind of like a 45 degree is what I mean, angle. 2 of them on the rear quarter panel area type of spot. And then it had some tree stickers that were there as well. It had some other stickers that were the brand of the shocks that it had. It was a cool car, man. Cool vehicle. Like I said, it just would go anywhere. I went off-roading all the time, went up in the mountains. I live in Utah, the United States of America, the state of Utah. And it was fun. It was great. It was something that suited my lifestyle. And that's why I had 3 of them, because it was a really good fit for me as far as a vehicle goes. I've been thinking about maybe getting another one. That would be my 4th, and great if I do. I would love it. We'll just see what happens. I'm praying through things. My life right now is structured differently than it just about ever has. And yeah, I mean, in many ways, it's nowhere near how it has ever been in any way. But we'll see what happens. I might end up with a 4th Nissan Xterra. I've kind of been feeling like that might be the case. The only hang-up, and it's not like a deal breaker because I've bought 3 of them before, but the gas mileage really, like I said, it's just not so great. In comparison, but you can always compare to whatever, and there can always be an ideal that's better than what you thought the ideal was before you found out the new thing, right? So I had this car. It was beautiful. Paint was immaculate. I took photos of it. This day that this accident happened, I had these photos of how beautiful it was. I kept it nice. I mean, I definitely drove it pretty well off-road, meaning like I definitely took it in mud and dirt and over rocks, right? But it was in great condition all around and really good off-road tires, right? Those cars are cool. They've got a locking rear differential. It had a 6-speed manual transmission with a high and low 4-wheel drive. Really cool vehicle, man. I love them. They're so good. They're really good. they've got their problems as cars do. And, you know, I actually experienced, they had this timing chain problem. And with my second one that I had, the middle of the 3 Xterras that I owned, its timing chain kind of burnt up. It has these little plastic guides that the timing chain goes around, which is weird because that's inside the engine and it's plastic that they make them out of. And I think part of it was me. I think I ran the oil pretty low and then it wasn't lubricating those, but still it's just a common problem that they had. But, you know, they're great vehicles. So mine was awesome, immaculate condition. I got photos of the day of the accident, like hours before the accident, which is so ironic, right? I mean, not in a way that could be any kind of coincidence whatsoever. This accident was intentional. It was placed for the reasons that it was, things that I understand to a degree at this point, things that might come as deeper revelation to me later on as I figure out more of what this all was about and why it happened. But anyway, that night, after I had cleaned the car and I took photos, well, just because I had cleaned it and it looked so nice. And so I took photos of it, but I also just used to take photos all the time. I had a really nice camera, as I've mentioned in past episodes of the Image Clothing Company podcast, professional mirrorless camera. It was a Sony A7R Mark II. Yeah, it's a cool camera. But anyway, then that evening into the night, right, I went on a drive and I just went around here, just around the town where I'm at. And I was coming home and it was dark. And I was coming through this stoplight, just about a couple miles, maybe, mile and a half, maybe, somewhere, you know, pretty close to where I actually live. I was coming in, making a left turn at a light. So I've got a yellow light. I have to yield. I don't have the right of way, right? Because I'm going left. And as I do, keep in mind it's dark, right? Dark outside, like dark. Sun's completely down, it's dark. A truck, all of a sudden, as I'm turning left, I don't see anything until I do. And it hits me on the front right of my car. And it was this big 1977 Ford F-250 Highboy. Big old tires, probably somewhere around 35-inch tires. Big truck, no lights on. All right. Now, I get slammed by this truck. My Xterra does a little bit of a spinny pivot thing and goes over to the side. Kind of get like tossed back about, you know, quite a few feet back from where I started, like tens of feet in the intersection, right? Because I was halfway through my turn. And yeah, the truck had a green light. I had to yield, all right? And I yielded to the cars that I could see that had headlights on, right? I mean, it is what it is. Yeah, I pulled out in front of a car when I was supposed to yield, but I yielded to what my eyes could see because there was no illumination to this truck's front end or any part of it. I mean, the lights were entirely off and it's an older truck. So it doesn't have, you know, some cars have these modern, more like small little marker lights and things, or maybe interior lights in some ways, or, you know, modern cars, they do a lot to be easier to see for these reasons, right? This truck was you know, many decades old. Which is fine. I mean, if it's legal to be on the road, it's legal to be on the road, but just meaning it's not very easy to see, dude, when you got no lights on. Holy cow. So he's going probably 45, 50 miles an hour. And I think the speed limit right there is 45. And I was probably going like, what, 4 miles an hour? Just like creeping through a left-handed yield turn, right? Yeah, dude. I mean, I don't know for sure how fast I was going, but like, I don't know, under 7 miles per hour probably. I mean, just kind of creeping through the left-hand turn. And so, yeah, get hit by this truck, dude. And that was like, what the? Such a shock. I didn't see anything until like right before he hit me. There's nothing I can do when there's like 10 feet before he hits me and he's going pretty quick, right? And I couldn't have gotten out of the way. He couldn't have swerved. Dude probably could have rolled the truck pretty darn easy if he's trying to like really swerve. That wouldn't have been the right move no matter what. He'd probably just roll that truck, right? Which is understandable. It's just a big truck. It's just meaning there's nothing neither of us could do at that point. But what that dude could have done is turned his headlights on. So anyway, long story short, that's all the context you really need for In the Image Clothing Company podcast for that part of it. But, you know, the police come, right? People are pretty shaken up. There was this dude and this girl in the truck, and I was just the only one in my Xterra. Man, check this out. On the rear window of my car in big old white letters. It said, "Let your faith be bigger than your fear." Like 4-inch tall letters by maybe 3-inch wide, like big old letters across the whole rear window. And yeah, I've talked about that in past episodes of In the Image Clothing Company podcast, just how, that car looked. It was awesome. I loved it. This dude hit me with no lights on. It came back to bite me a year and a half later. Anyway, so we do the whole police exchange thing, insurance. We both had insurance, right? I was wearing my seatbelt. I'm not sure as of this current moment if they were, if anyone knows for sure if they were as of yet or at all, right? But besides them, maybe they know, maybe they don't even remember. I don't know. But, following the law, dude, and yielding to the traffic that I could see. And anyway, I got hit by a truck with no lights. The point with all this, though, and how this lawsuit came to be, I guess, I don't even know really what they're trying to get from any of this, or what they can't. There's nothing that they could get from this, from trying to have a lawsuit, trying to have me come and have a arbitration is what I feel like it says. And by feel, I mean, as far as I remember, that's the word. I don't even know for sure what that means, but sure, I'll do what I got to do. But again, there's no outcome to this that's different than the current one. I've already taken care of everything that I needed to on my end. And so, yeah, because I'm out of car, dude. I don't know if his truck got totaled or restored or what afterward, but my car got totaled. That was the last time I ever drove that car, because it was, it was totaled, man, big time. Big truck hit me, right? The truck hit me. Yeah, I pulled out in front of a vehicle that was coming, but it wasn't my fault. Dude didn't have lights on. It's completely dark outside, okay? And no kind of claim or opinion I could have, right? I always say, don't believe me, and this is going to be the same thing if I'm sitting in some kind of arbitration, whatever I find out that is, if I have to go to it. I'm going to just sit there and say the same thing I say here on In the Image Clothing Company podcast. Don't believe me. If I'm really in the wrong, then I'm in the wrong. I'm not trying to make something that isn't, but I got video proof from the gas station that's on the corner of the accident site. It didn't actually catch the accident in their camera footage, but it caught probably about 200 feet before where the truck entered the intersection. And right, time stamped, date stamped from this gas station. I went over days after and got the footage, and you see the truck coming in with no headlights on, right? Very clear, very clear. I sent it to the police station. I sent it to whoever I did at the time, and my ticket got waived because I did get a ticket for failure to yield, because that's understandable. If that dude had lights on his end, it was doing everything he legally had to do to make it able for me to be able to see him, then yeah, in that case, if his lights were on, they weren't. And no thing I could say about that. We have video proof, but I'm just right. That's what I mean. And an eyewitness, which I'll talk about. I just want to saying it right here. I'm going to include that as well before I say it later. I mean, we got an eyewitness that stopped after the accident happened. He turned around and came over, and he just made sure people were all right. He gave a police report. I didn't even know until after he did it. I didn't know he was there, or that anybody saw that stuck around. And video proof, right? Time stamped, date marked from the gas station. So, I'm in the clear. As far as, yeah, I pulled, in front of a car that there's no way I could have seen. I'm a pretty aware driver. I've got a lot of driving experience. You don't got to care. Like I said, don't believe me. It doesn't matter what you think about whatever, but just, the truth of all this is that it wasn't my fault. Because that's what happened, is when I got the footage to the police after the fact, right, after a few days, they waived my ticket for failure to yield. Because I didn't fail to yield. I yielded to everything that was visual, right, that was able to be seen, that had a light on it when it was dark outside, right? And so, yeah. Now, it's this time, and here this is, right? Apparently, the girl that was in the truck with the guy, there's just those two people in that truck. Apparently she had injuries, which, shoot, I don't want anyone to get injured, but again, if it wasn't my fault, then it wasn't my fault. It's like somebody just getting injured for whatever reason anywhere, and okay, hopefully, ideally, and maybe, and if, right? Meaning people get injured. That's never great to happen, but it happens, and it wasn't my fault by any means. So Yeah, that's what this is. It's nothing to do with the accident, about whose fault is what, but it's like they're trying to get me to pay for her injuries. That's why it's such a strange thing, right? It's a year and a half later. I mean, what if I had moved, like, out of the country? Or what if I had died an entire year after the accident? Now it would still be 6 months after my death, let's say, right? A whole entire year and one half of another year after an accident occurs. Um, they're trying to get money from me to pay for somebody's medical bills within a vehicle, and they weren't even the one driving, and the person who was driving didn't even have their headlights on when it was dark outside. And the whole like accident case got settled. I don't know exactly what date, but I mean way back. I mean close to, soon after all this happened. So meaning close to a year and a half prior to this date that I'm talking about this, prior to this email that came in 6 days ago from this date, right? That I'm speaking. So very strange, which is the 5th of March, 2025. Yeah. So strange. So now that I've kind of given a little context of all that, there's reasons to it. I don't need anyone to like validate me for my stuff that I got to deal with that I shouldn't have to, because none of it is something that is up to me to deal with at this point, or even in the beginning, because again, the facts of what actually happened within the accident, like I had insurance, and well, I don't know who on their end exactly. I'm not going to speak for them right now within this, because I'd have to go try to actually make sure I'm saying all that correct to be documenting it like this and not saying something that's not quite how it was. But, the insurance did what it did. It's been a year and a half. What does that even mean? I mean, what do you think you're doing? Trying to get something to happen a year and a half after something like this occurs is so strange. But for the sake of In the Image Clothing Company podcast, where we have discussions on the gospel of Jesus Christ, let me talk about this under a gospel lens, just meaning under the truth of it, right? The gospel of Jesus Christ being the truth of all things. In August, I've talked about this whole story about how I left the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. I voluntarily removed my records because I got deceived. I got thinking I should have been somewhere I shouldn't have. I had this woman who came into my life and claimed that she wanted to be with me, and then she left my life and left me with all this stuff that I had to deal with. Stuff I've talked about to degrees and in ways within past episodes of In the Image Clothing Company podcast. All this stuff within my life happened right around this time. All the warfare that I was experiencing and all the confusion and being pulled here and pushed there and lost, and, everything was happening around August 2024. It was February. Wait, hold on. Because that's not the date that the accident even occurred. It wasn't 2024. Hold on. Because that makes this even weirder. August 26, 2024. Hold on. It's 2025. This accident, well, I mean, that makes sense as far as the year and a half that I'm talking about, but this accident was in 2023. This accident was in 2023. Because, I mean, since I had this Xterra, this whole discussion's about, it had been quite a few months, and then it was February 2024, an entire year, because I was thinking about this on my walk today, that it's been a whole year from, it might have been yesterday I was thinking about this, but it was the end of February 2024, I bought my little truck. And that was after I had this Xterra and months without this, because it got totaled by Mr. No Light's truck. And yeah, that's all correct, because like I'm saying, it has been a year and a half, but that makes me wonder then, this is just an email that was sent August 26, 2024. That would have been a year after the accident. And I don't really understand what that's about then, because it says, I received your voicemail last week. Maybe there was stuff going on then as well. Anyway, just to very much solely clarify, it was 2023 August, and I think it was actually the 28th. Yeah. But this is just right around just about exactly a year after the accident that this email that is being referred to within this newer email 6 days ago was. Man, see, that's what I mean. This whole thing's so weird. It's just coming back to bite me. It's been a year and a half. And so, yeah, because I haven't had my own vehicle for, 8 months maybe. I had my truck for a few months. I got it last February. And so 6 months before then is when I got hit by this big truck, dude. This Mr. No Lights, dude. So anyway, wow. Okay, that's weird. Makes it even weirder for me because I'm like, I was thinking that email that he was referencing within this new one was at the time of the accident. But no, that was an entire year after the accident, which was 6 months prior to now. Weird. So anyway, the point being, though, it was 2023 then when all this went down, and meaning everything in my life that was so weird that was making me question I never questioned my faith for a second in Christ. But, I mean, no. But I was very confused and deceived of where I should be as far as what church I should be going to. And, right, so I removed my records from the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Yeah, right around February, right around when I got my truck, right around a year ago from now, right? Okay, there we go. Clarified, because the date on that email was a year after the accident. So strange. Anyway, here's the thing is that's what I mean is when my car got totaled, when I got hit by Mr. No Lights. That's so cool. That's the name for the dude if we keep referencing that big old 77 high boy F-250, bro. Shout out to, just start dropping names, dude. Because I don't care. I just, like I'm saying, I want the truth of it. I'm not here to try to pit anybody against anybody. If I'm in the wrong, I'm in the wrong, but I'm just not. I'll take accountability for whatever I have to for the things that I actually did, right? Like I always say, condemn me for what I have said. I'm publicly saying stuff that's a little bit questionable sometimes on InTheImageClothingCompanyPodcast, but I'm saying it. So yes, I have to be held accountable for what I have done and what I have said, but by my God, not by these manipulative people trying to do stuff like this, and it's just so annoying. But the whole thing is, when I was experiencing so much warfare back in August of 2023, that led me to, right about 6 months after that, removing my records from the church, right? And in August is when I was around this woman, right, of 2023. So there was just so much warfare going on in that time and so much confusion in like the spirit, in my being, in my relationship with Christ, in my advancement in what I need to do. Within the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, we have what I've referenced in past episodes of the Image Clothing Company podcast. They're called temple recommends, where we get recommended to go to the temple and we do the things that we do within the temple. If you want to know about it, just make sure you're actually going to credible sources to learn about what that is, right? The churchofjesuschrist.org. Oh, not quite exactly that. The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.org. As far as I'm aware, anything that's, just make sure it's official, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. If you're trying to look up what the temple's about, right? Don't look at anything outside of the thing that you're looking at to try to find out what it is. Yeah, please, for your sake. I know how it is to get deceived, right? It's not cool, and it's something that can definitely happen. So I got my first temple recommend when I was in this time. It was in August, as far as I am aware. That is actually the same month, 2023. And I was getting ready to be, doing the progressive steps that we do within the church to do what we do within the church, right? I not that I'm hiding or holding back anything, but I just, I want to give context to the things that I do talk about. But I was about to be ordained an elder which is just one of the ranks of priesthood that we have within the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Again, if you want to learn about this, we talk about things as we do here, and we'll probably give a lot of context as time goes on, if and when. But again, just make sure you're going to very, very, very true, credible sources, as in just the church's official website, if you want to look up any of what the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints really is, because anyone will tell you anything about anything if they're not it, right? So, yeah. But it was in a time period of my life where I was doing a lot of good things that I was supposed to be doing. And I was spreading the gospel, preaching the gospel in the ways that I was. I had guitars, and like that episode of In the Image Clothing Company podcast states, there's one titled "Better at Times," one of the recent ones from this point back. And I talked about how there's been times in my past where I at least feel as though I was better at playing guitar than I am now. And that was like in this moment, in August of 2023. So there's all this stuff that's good happening. And then everything started to crumble. This girl did what she did. I don't want to be focusing on that so much just because I'm not trying to be complaining about something, but I use it for what it's been placed in my life to use for. That story's in past episodes of In the Image Clothing Company podcast. But then my car got totaled right within the same couple weeks that happened, where this woman left my life. I, then started questioning things and spiraling, and so much was going on. And, well, all the progress that I was making, right, I stopped playing guitar quite as much. And guitar became something that was, like, hard for me to do. Like I've talked about recently, it's, like, hard for me sometimes to even touch Frank the guitar, which is just my only guitar that I have right now, right? But in this time period back then, I had, like, 6 guitars at that time. That was, like, my main focus in my life really was guitar at that time, 2023, around August, right? Man. And so then, yeah, it became hard for me to even play guitar at all, even want to. And then when I was doing it, there was like so much struggle that I was having that I wasn't having prior to all this blowing up. And then, I removed my records from the church. Then I thought I was going to move to California in July of 2024. And that was the plan. I got rid of just about everything that I own. Would have done that to the degree that I would have, and I already was anyway, regardless of if I were to move to California. But it was just my plan to go there, and I didn't want to have any kind of things in 2 places, right? And so I got rid of pretty much everything to where I would almost leave nothing here and just go live in California. It was all set up, right? I got down to only 1 guitar, and it was a little travel guitar, an LAG Travel SP, nice little steel string guitar. I don't really play steel string guitars, crazy things with nylon strings from Evan Strong, right? I mean, it's going to be really sweet, and it already is, but I had a steel string guitar, but it's that whole thing about things were so close, but not quite, right? As in so close, but not quite right. There's an episode of In the Image Clothing Company podcast titled So Close. And I talked about that type of stuff within there. When you're doing the right things, but you're just not quite there. And, the devil manipulates things to make something so beautiful just slightly tweaked to where it's absolutely evil, right? So a lot of that was going on in this time period in my life, 2023, around August. And it was hard, dude. It was rough. But when I was talking about moving to California, that was just, right, furthering through this time period from when this accident happened, between that and now, this whole 1.5 year time period. Yeah, I was, going to move to California. I didn't end up doing it. Now I've been here in this house and founded In the Image Clothing Company in September of 2024. The 23rd of September was our official launch date. Got Frank the guitar here in December of 2024. Got my beautiful Zero Denver leathers. My boots by Zero Shoes. No affiliation as of today's date or up until, but just some big stuff that happened in my life through this time period, because these shoes they've been a big help in just allowing my body to work, allowing me to get out of these chronic patternings, to, go before everyone else in the sense of speaking out of experience, preaching what I practice rather than practicing what I preach, right? There's an episode of In the Image Clothing Company podcast titled Preaching What I Practice. I talked about it on the back end because it's the paradoxical gospel of Jesus Christ. So all these things are happening within this time period, right? And then now at the beginning of this year, we're ripping out podcast episodes for In the Image Clothing Company podcast. We've got 3 sides to the company. I haven't had a vehicle since I sold my little truck that I bought in February of 2024, which I had it for about 3 months, and I sold it somewhere in like late spring, April, May, maybe, 2024. So just some context of what my life has looked like in this past little bit of time. But here's the thing. Now, I'm just about getting ready to get baptized back into the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. I've met with the stake president. It went amazing. I met with the bishop of the ward that I'm actually within the boundaries of, which isn't the ward that I've been going to as of late, or even like past 6-8 months, right? But however long I've been going again, after like turning my back truly on the truth of all things, the restored gospel of Jesus Christ in its fullness, which is the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Don't believe me, but that's the case. That is the true church. And, you know, I've met with the people I need to. I'm doing the things that I have to do, meaning I'm done, other than setting a date and getting baptized. Okay? And now, here we are. This thing's coming back to bite me, right? August of 2023, when I was making the moves that I could have been making at any time period as far as whatever, right? Who knows how much of it's me delaying versus how much of it's an intentional delay that our God places into our lives, because he does with certain things. We think they should be done at certain times, but he actually wants us to hold off because he's got things that he's putting into place the way that he does. Whatever all of it was, I was finally doing some things that are good things to do in August of 2023, as far as within the gospel of Jesus Christ, within the truth of all things, right? Within playing guitar, because I keep mentioning how I'm just going to play guitar for the rest of my life. As I said, when I bought my first one and I didn't even know what was going on, right? There's an episode of In the Image Clothing Company podcast titled I'm a Musician. I went into that, right? I went into that discussion of me and music and how it's been such a battle. There's never been anything in my life I've battled with as much as I have with playing guitar. So I'm certain that I'm supposed to be playing this thing for the rest of my life, just meaning any guitar that I do have at any point. And I was playing a lot in August of 2023, okay? I had a really nice vehicle in immaculate condition. I mean, you know, it was 13 years old at that point, and so it had the wear and tear it did, but it was in amazing condition. Ran great, all the things, right? Customized in all the ways. And got hit by Mr. No Lights. Mr. Big old Ford F-250 High Boys 1977 truck with no lights came through the intersection and totaled my car. But it was intentional. That's what I mean. The whole day, right, it was very rare for me to clean my car. I took care of it, and it wasn't all dinged up and chipped, but it was a lot of times really covered in mud and dirt because I was in the mountains, in the mud, driving through, you know, Utah's landscapes. I mean, really, right? Mountaintops and climbing rocks and doing all the things that vehicle is actually designed to do. That's why it has four-wheel drive and all the things, right? Locking rear differential, the good tires. That's why it has all the lights that it does, because I would go out at night in the mountains, you know. I was just using it for what it was for, but it was very commonly quite covered in dirt externally. And on the inside as well, just dust coming in through the windows. I cleaned the car that day is what I'm saying. I mean, I probably cleaned that car maybe 4 times in my time of owning it. I don't know exactly how long I had it until, you know, it got totaled by Mr. No Lights, but good amount of time. Right, I had it for quite a while. And not multiple years, but at least a year, as far as I'm aware. Maybe a year and a half I had that car. Somewhere right around there. And anyway, dude, ouch, I'm going to adjust my legs a little bit because I'm sitting against this wall in a not super comfortable position. Now, in this time period, with all this good stuff going on, you can just feel when things are being led up to something big, whatever that's supposed to mean. Something big as in something you don't really want to happen, or something big that you've been wanting to happen, and it's like a release, kind of overflow of blessings type of thing, okay? That day that I cleaned my car, I felt something. Because it wasn't just like how I would clean it in the occasions that I occasionally would, because it wasn't very often that I did, but I would usually just kind of spray it down. You know, get a little bit of distance on it so you're not spraying the paint super harshly with high pressure water and just kind of spray it down pretty good and let it, rinse off. This day, the day of the accident in August of 2023, I mean, I was out there actually cleaning it, like the way that people who really clean their cars thoroughly clean their cars. And that's not something so common for me in my past experiences with cars. And then I took photos of it, which, yeah, it's common for me to take photos of my cars, at least in this time period it was. Very common. Like I said, I was just a photographer in general anyway, and I was doing car photography in the ways that I was. My friends' cars that were cool. My friend had a Miata. Take some cool photos of his car in cool locations, and, yeah, other people's off-road vehicles and things I would, but it was just in the driveway of this house that I still live in, right, where I lived at this time. And I took photos of it all around it, and then I went on that little drive, like I'm saying, as it was like evening and the sun was starting to set, and then I was coming home from the drive. It was dark, dude. Missed the no lights comes through the intersection and hits my exterior and totals it. So, a lot of things are placed, like I'm saying. A lot of things are placed, and whatever that means and why ever it is, and if we ever fully understand that in this life, that's a separate thing. But as far as for sure that things are placed, because there's no kind of way you could possibly label something a coincidence that was obviously just so intentional and like particular, I guess. I mean, something that just couldn't even, it's almost like something you couldn't make up type of thing. Like those things in your life, it's like, yeah, I mean, I couldn't make this up if I wanted to, as far as things that we experience that are just so right, even if we think they're wrong. Like it just was so like perfectly placed, if you will. That's how this whole car accident was. In the time period of like, I discussed a lot of what my life looked like within this episode of In the Image Clothing Company podcast, episode 76, Back to Bite. And just all the things, right? It was just placed. But now, right, as I'm doing it again, back to where I need to be. I have Frank the guitar. And as much as I've been wanting to break this guitar, because it drives me nuts, right? And as much as I want to throw this thing or put my foot through it, because that way it would be like, I just don't want to deal with it, Father, because I've got this whole battle with it. Right now I'm feeling so comfortable with Frank the guitar again, within the discomfort, okay? As it was within, as it is, I guess, within times when you're doing what you're supposed to, with the things that need to happen. Also, I just mentioned, right, past few weeks I've been meeting with the people I need to, and all I got to do is set a date and get baptized and kind of undo what I did, quote unquote, wrong. But again, it's been used the way it has, right? I've deepened my testimony of Jesus Christ. I've deepened my relationship with my living God, Jesus Christ. And I've deepened, probably more than anything, what has been deepened as far as it kind of almost maybe wouldn't have been able to happen quite this way, just meaning it wouldn't have been able to happen this way if this didn't happen. I now know that the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints is the restored truth of all things on the earth. And I didn't quite know that before I removed my records. I knew Christ. I knew the gospel was true. I knew it, and I knew it. But as far as one specific church versus just being a disciple of Jesus Christ, that's where I was a little bit iffy. And that's where I was moving to California as a Christian to spread the gospel, have my little LAG Travel SP on a beach, Los Angeles area, doing my thing. That's what the plan was, as just like a Christian, rather than a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, okay? So now, you don't got to believe me or care or what, other than it's the truth. I know the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints is the true church, the restored church. I know it because I've had the contrast, right? Talk about Alma the Younger getting racked with the pains of a damned soul, all right? Talk about Peter denying Jesus Christ when he physically lived with him when he was on earth, right? Our God lived on earth 33 years. Peter, Simon Peter, within the Holy Bible, was, Christ's actual apostle, physically, like, with him when Christ was here. And then, right, leading up to the crucifixion of our God, Peter denied that Christ was the Messiah, right? He denied that he knew Christ. he denied the things that he couldn't because it physically happened. They lived with each other. They preached with each other. Peter taught the words that Christ taught to him face to face, as in flesh to flesh. Our God was literally in the presence, physically, in human form of Peter, yet he still denied him, right? But I like to talk about those two people because I have a similar situation as Alma the Younger within the Book of Mormon and Peter within the Holy Bible. But after Peter denied Christ, he went on to be, preaching the Word of God, the truth of all things. And he brought so many souls to repentance. He brought so many souls to Christ that wouldn't have otherwise known our living God if Peter didn't do the work that he did after he had denied him. Alma the Younger went on to do very similar things, big things, bring a lot of people to repentance, baptize a lot of people, and preach the truth of all things to a lot of people after he was trying to pull people away from God as he is, Jesus the Christ, okay? So I've got a similar story to these people, and I relate to them, and I understand them, and now I'm doing a similar thing already. I have In the Image Clothing Company podcast where I'm preaching the gospel, and I'm able to use my own story as a testimony for others because it's my testimony. And we share our testimonies to strengthen other people's. Okay. Now, with all that being said, we talk about these phrases like bigger levels, bigger devils, that kind of stuff, right? And some things just come back to bite. And I was seeing if my jaw would pop. It popped. I was in Institute tonight, right? It's Wednesday. Like I say, we have Institute on Wednesday. We go within the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and it's kind of like a class that you'd have on Sunday, really, just like a gospel discussion. And then after, they have food for us as well. I did that tonight, and man, my jaw popped during that class, dude, like a solid, like, I've talked about, as my body is physically adjusting, my jaw is as well. The human body only works as a whole. The jaw stabilizes the entire body. That's one of its natural functions through everything, through breathing, through chewing, through speaking. The trachea goes through the center of the jaw, and the jaw needs to be in the center of the human being, which there is one, right? So anyway, yeah. Sometimes, something that we think that we've overcome will come back to bite us in a moment where it's so similar to when it popped up last time, okay? Also, sins of mine, personally. Am I confessing my sins right now? The answer is yes, okay? Sins of mine that I've talked about, right? Stuff I deal with, stuff that he and she deals with, but sometimes we don't talk about, but let's do it because it helps each other and ourselves when we do speak on things that are just what we're experiencing because we're human beings. Truth is truth. We can try to hide all we want until we can't because it always comes to the surface. Now, sins that I have struggled with and have been like entirely free of for months past week, been ramping up, all right? This manila folder right here, that on the front of it says, the little note from my mom that says my name, it says Evan, and then underneath it says, this email came in 6 days ago, as I showed it. If you're watching In the Image Clothing Company podcast in visual, you can see what I'm talking about. If you're in audio only, that's fine. But In the Image Clothing Company podcast is available in video plus audio as well as just audio only, just for future note if you'd like to know in a time that doesn't exist because we're in one eternal now. Shout out to that episode of In the Image Clothing Company podcast titled One Eternal Round. Anyway, right, it's been about a week. I've been kind of dabbling in sin. Is that weird to say? I don't care. It's been what's happening. It's weird to me that it's happening because I thought I was over that, right? We're looking back at things in our past as if they're back in our past, but we live in one eternal round. So I'm dealing with stuff that I thought I had overcome, right? But that's just a testimony in itself because we're never going to just overcome. You talk about like addiction, for example, right? Which, all right, I've had my addictions. We're calling a spade, and I have, and we've talked about it. Early episodes of In the Image Clothing Company podcast, there's one titled dependence, and I'm pretty sure that's where I talked about, my situation in probably the most depth that I have up until this point within In the Image Clothing Company podcast, as far as like up until today's date, right? The 5th of May, except it's March 2025. The 5th of March 2025. Now, I've been dabbling in sin, all right? I'm always sinning left and right. As I say, we're sinful by nature, but we're supposed to be overcoming the natural man, okay? Putting off the natural and becoming as our God is. Like I say, the whole point of this life is just getting closer to Christ. In our own situations, that looks differently for each of us. Timings are differently placed and laid out for each of us because it's not our timing if we're really surrendering to our God's will, right? Talk about timing. Why did I clean my car so nicely and take some photos of it the day that the accident happened? Well, so that the insurance adjuster could have some context of what the car really looked like before it was crumpled, right? To know how much money to compensate me with. And it happened. I got compensated, right? I mean, insurance is great when you need it. Otherwise, it's something we wish we didn't have to do. But when it is used, it's great. Right? Shout out to insurance. In my case, this way, I mean, this was, yeah, right? That's why we have it, is if you need it. And it comes in handy if you do. It sure does. Full coverage on my car, right? And they fully covered the cost of what I lost within, the value of what my vehicle was worth. It doesn't always work out that way with insurance. Sometimes they aren't so fair with what you've actually lost and then what they compensate you with. But in this accident's case, it was so blessed with that part of all that experience. That was amazing. But like I'm saying, it was just placed. It was timing. It was supposed to happen right when it did. You don't got to believe that, but I don't have to believe it either. It just happened, and I couldn't deny it if I wanted to. I don't need to believe in it, right? That's what I say. I've said this, and I'll say it if and when I do, but I truly don't believe in anything. Me, Evan Strong. I don't. We talk about the gospel of Jesus Christ, and it is the truth of all things. Because, a lot of times we get blessed with things, and we can't even believe that somebody would do that for us. But it happened, right? It's the truth. You're not going to deny what has happened without just lying to yourself, which we do sometimes, right? And we talk about these things in this way often here, and we have under In the Image Clothing Company podcast. But things come back to bite you. Now, the big takeaway from this, whether we're wrapping up the episode or we're just kind of wrapping up this whole back to bite in the context of this car accident or whatever ends up coming after what I say here, the big takeaway from the whole back to bite is, like I said, bigger levels, bigger devils. When you're doing what you're supposed to, that's when things usually come up. And the whole point of anything is just have faith. Like I said, I don't care. If this ends up somehow, it would be an illegal manipulation because again, it just is what it is. And it's been a year and a half and I've taken care of everything I needed to. But if in some kind of way, out of a manipulative whatever, out of the worldly this and that, out of the devil placing his foot in somewhere, if I ended up having to pay somebody money for something or whatever, I'm going to do it, right? We follow the legal systems. We do it. We're commanded to not bow to the things of this world, but, obey the laws of the places that we're placed within on this earth. And, right. All the Christ-like attributes are give everything up. Give everything they're asking for you. Let them take everything plus more and give willingly after they've taken, right? So yeah, whatever I got to do, whatever comes from this, I'll do it. I'm not trying to have some kind of legal battle because there's no battle that needs to happen, but the battle doesn't belong to me. It's my God fighting for me in the ways that he will, but also he has us go through things that we don't want to so that we learn. So whatever all this ends up being, it's just going to be what it is. I'm not complaining, but I am saying just there is no need for this as far as just what it is. But if there's a lesson that I'm trying to be, not trying to be as in my God trying to do something, he doesn't have to try. But if our God is placing this a year and a half later into my life again to try to teach me something, then that's what I need to see, right? And again, regardless, I'll do what I need to within this legally, definitely. We'll figure it out and we'll do it, and sure, fine, like grudgingly but willingly. It's kind of opposites, but kind of the same, and that's really how I'm approaching this. Like, it's not something I really have to deal with, but if I legally have to deal with it, we'll deal with it in the ways that it has to be done, keeping it as truthful as it is, right? Owning up to everything I have to, but also not letting people manipulate when that's the case, right? So yeah. Anyway, bigger levels, bigger devils. The whole thing is, it's not just like some random time down the road this popped up, but this week I've been, well, not even that. I mean, it's, yes, this week, but not even just this week. Tonight at Institute, the stake president talked to me, right? And he's like, yeah, I told your bishop, like, you're cleared for baptism, and see what I mean? Like, he came up to me and said that, and also on Sunday this last week, the ward that I'm actually in, the bishop that that we're talking with, that I talked with had a meeting with him on Tuesday last week. I went to this ward that I'm actually supposed to be in, but I've only been to one other time besides last Sunday. And the stake president was in sacrament meeting that week, meaning this last Sunday, from today's date back. And so the bishop and the stake president were both sitting up on the stand, and things are just placed, right? It's not me doing something. That's what I mean. It's not me complaining about this legal issue, because like I said, we'll take care of it, and however it has to happen, even if, like, unrightfully, untruthfully, if it were to be the case, if in those ways I still had to pay for something, but it wasn't actually, like, correct, but just that's how it ended up because of whatever, then cool, right? I'll do what I gotta do. I don't even care, because that's what it is. It's like this whole, things just pop up. It's the whole flash in the pan thing. It's the, can you just, like, overlook this and have faith? Or if something comes up, are you going to have your faith shaken? And do you need a little bit more time to strengthen your faith before I bless you with things, says our God to us, okay? That hits. I was getting ready to speak again, and no words are coming out quite yet, because that's it. Not only does that hit, as in, oh, that could be, but no, that's it. And I knew that, and I know that. I mean, I knew that before filming this. It's not like that just hit me, but it's just that that's what it really is. I know that I'm getting blessed with things. I have In The Image Clothing Company, dude, and we didn't have this before September 23rd, 2024. And so things are ramping up, dude. I mean, I've got 76 episodes as of this one of In The Image Clothing Company podcast in a pretty short period of time. And they're all just as good as they would be if I spent a year working on each one of them, right? It's not like I'm cranking content and just like, look how much I've done just so that I can, like, be showy. Shout out to that episode of In The Image Clothing Company podcast titled Just For Show, right? I mean, they're all very intentional and they're all very deep discussions. So I'm doing a lot of good things. My body's transitioning. Just meaning I'm getting out of these chronic patternings and back to the way that my God designed my body to be, right? From clothing, the patternings that we get into. I'm doing all that I have to do. And in all ways, in other ways in my life as well. Not that I'm holding anything back that I'm not saying within this, but just, I could sit here and talk about whatever for all the time that I could keep continuing to speak on things that actually were important to say. But times and places, we'll get into them when we do, right? But here, things are happening, okay? And as they do, now all of a sudden sins are popping up left and right, stuff that I was overcoming and stuff that I, wasn't playing around with, right? These childlike things, if you will. That's really what sins are. It's like stuff that we need to kind of, like, almost grow out of, right? And stuff just comes up when it's a test of faith, right? When something's about to overflow, all the blessings in your life, you get bombarded a lot of the time, okay? And it's a lot of times not new things, but like I'm saying, it's stuff that comes back to bite. There's so much, like, there's like a back to bite, the back to bite. It's like a beatbox in itself. So each time I say it, I start beatboxing after. Kind of like in the Image Clothing Company podcast. I love the alliterations and, a lot of like articulate type words with a lot of like C's and T's. That's all beatboxing is. It's like a T and a C. Right. That's really crazy. I love it. I just love how chill it all is too, because like I'm saying, I'm not upset about it, but it's just something that's coming up for the reasons it is, whatever I got to learn from it. And one thing I've really got to learn from it is I used to think that it was the end of the world, dude. Some stuff would happen. I'd be like, oh my goodness, how am I ever going to overcome this? My eyes would get all big like this. If you're only listening in audio form, then hey, that's why I said that, because you can see this if you can see it. I'm looking at something like, no, there's no way. We already addressed this, in this case, right, a year and a half ago. What in the world, right? I see this email. Like I said, transparency. I'm not trying to claim in any way I didn't know about this. I saw it. Well, that's the other weird thing about it. I haven't checked my email just because I don't care. Sit on that for a second. I haven't checked my email because I don't have any social media, right? And I don't text people. I don't have a cell phone plan as of this time, or it's been an entire year since I have. Right? I'm in this whole time period of my life where all that stuff's just out of my life that I don't care about. So I haven't checked my email in many months, no exaggeration. And a few days ago, like 2, 3 maybe, I think right around 3 days ago, might have been Sunday even, actually. I think it was the Sunday that I'm talking about where the stake president and the bishop were both on the stand. I checked my email and I saw this because it was sent to both my mom and I. And probably the same one, right? So it was probably 3 days prior to when I saw it, 3 days ago, because my mom's note here says 3 or 6 days ago from today, right? Yeah. Oh gosh. Anyway, that's cool. That's cool, dude. It's all cool. Anyway, but yeah, the point is I checked my email. I never do. And if that had come in, because I think it was the 27th of February. So however many days ago that was from now. It's just, a few days back. And a few days before I had checked it just a few days ago. I never checked my email. It's been months since I've checked my email. Right? And things just kind of bombard you. But also there's other things in my life that I'm not holding back, but also it's my own personal life. I don't got to talk about it if I don't got to talk about it, whether you're my wife or my counselor or whatever, right? There are certain things and that's, going forth, that's the case. If it ever seems like I'm holding anything back from talking about it on In the Image Clothing Company podcast, I want to be very transparent and open and real, but there are things that, you don't have to tell your wife, or you don't have to tell your husband, or you don't have to tell your whatever, right? There's a difference between, yes, being entirely honest with people, but then also there are certain things in your life that are just your own very personal things that other people don't even need to know about. And don't let me tell you how to navigate that, but that really is how it is. And so, giving some context though, there are a lot of things in my life right now that are happening. And they're just happening right now. Yeah, so perfectly timed by our God and perfectly placed. Because he places trials in our lives, stumbling blocks in the ways that he does to teach us and to test our faith. I think if you have seen any kind of Christian movies or anything, that's a commonly portrayed thing because it's a common thing to happen in life of human beings where, people will be, well, it's what I'm saying within my own life, right? My problems aren't unique. And so that's why I said at the start of this, I came into it saying, yeah, if I sound like I'm complaining, cool, that's fine. Because I am, in a sense. Because it's something I don't want to have to deal with because I already addressed. And, it really doesn't need to be addressed anymore. But things come up the way they do. So within the Christian movies, it's common to see their life seems to be going good and right. And like maybe somebody teaches somebody about Christ and then they get in a relationship, right? Like a man who's a faithful Christian meets a woman and she's not really faithful. She doesn't know Christ and he starts bringing her to church or something. She starts to know Christ. She starts to gain faith, and she starts to understand him as he is and builds a relationship with him in her life. But then something happens, right? And it's like she thinks everything's just going to go good, and then something just drops, you know? And then all of a sudden she's sitting there like drops to her knees. And it could be a man or a woman, and it could be any kind of dynamic of how this comes about. But, you know, it's just portrayed this way sometimes in movies. She drops to her knees and she's praying like, why, Father? I thought everything was going good. I've been going to church. I've been doing what I need to. I've been praying. Is this just a test, right? And sometimes the answer is yes. Sometimes it's just a test of faith. Sometimes it's just, hey, Evan, are you going to look at this and be like, oh, gosh, it's all gone to waste, basically. And that's kind of how I feel. You know, if I'm being real, like I said, I want to be complaining if I'm complaining. I don't want to try to sound a certain way, to try to be like this big old wise man who's got this depth of knowledge that, I mean, I do in the ways that I do, but I also know that I'm a human being. I've got the wisdom to know that we're never going to be knowing what's happening in this earthly life fully as a human being, because we have to have faith in our God. So that's the whole point, right? I'm sitting here and I'm like, man, I kind of start thinking like everything's just gone to waste then, huh? I've been trying and now everything's hitting me again. Should I just kind of give up and give into sin, for example, right? Give up and like break my guitar because I don't know how to accept what's happening with it and why I'm feeling the way I feel about it, right? Should I just give up and not get baptized? It's already been an entire year that I haven't been a member of the church. What, do I just not? Be easier that way, because then I can just do whatever I want again, right? These type of thoughts are coming up in my mind. This is real. This is not hypothetical. This is how I'm feeling past few days and, yes. And that's not cool, dude. But what is cool is that our God tests our faith. And what is cool is that there's reatheming themes, right? So let me rephrase it correct. There's reoccurring... I don't even know exactly what I'm saying. Yeah, sometimes what happens, dude, is I get so humbled that the words don't come out. When I start to say something and it, like, hits me, check out past episodes of In the Image Clothing Company Podcast. That happens, dude. And you can see it, and I can feel it. I feel the spirit right now, no joke. Not some kind of thing to throw out phrase-wise. I mean that. Because there's reoccurring themes within the lives of human beings. We're just what we are. We're just placed here to do what we do, and each person comes to this earth and they do it and they leave. We have this little blip of a life, 80 years, 100 years, maybe you die when you're 3. Who knows? Whatever you do here, you do it and you leave. And there's reoccurring themes, right? Like I'm saying, that's why the Christian movies are laid out the way that they are, because people in life have those experiences. I myself have had things go on in my life that look very similar to Christian movies that I've watched. And I can relate very, very deeply to their experiences. People that I've talked to in my own personal life, gone through things that are so similar to me. Our problems are not unique. We as individuals are in the ways that we are, but we're also always just what we are. And that's all we ever need to be. And it's our true identity is sons and daughters of our living God, Jesus Christ. And we're all the same in his eyes and to him, and we're all one under God. We're all one body of Christ. We all do have the same problems. And people deal with this kind of stuff all the time, the legal issues. And so I'm looking at it like, shoot, could be the end of the world. And I mean that. Like, that's where my mind goes. But, other people deal with this all the time as well. I got in a car wreck actually, just a few months back in the fall. It was like October or something of 2024. And the officer, that was on the scene, he's like, yeah, this is our 6th accident today, just for the town of where I live, right? So people deal with this kind of stuff all the time, and we start to get thinking like our problems are unique, our relationship problems or our whatever, legal issues in this case, even stuff that's not our fault. Like, because that's the big thing, is it's like, well, if I'm really doing all that I need to do, and if this really isn't even my fault, then why am I dealing with it, I'm the one trying to do good, And that's what I'm saying, is that's when the devil comes in to kill, steal, and destroy. Because you're doing all you can, And you're taking the high road when it's the harder one to do, because now you're hiking up the mountain when everybody else is going through the tunnel, right? But you get the wisdom when you get over that peak and come down the other side. And they just took a little ride on through the easy route, but, you know, doing the things of the world, taking part in all the things inside that train. I've never used that. and that's not a shock to me, meaning, well, it shouldn't be a shock to you. What I mean is, a lot of times, I mean, I'm just really good with wordplay, and I come up with things on the spot like that. The reason I said it verbally is because, to me, I was kind of blown away by how that came out. Because, yeah, you got people in train cars, you know, going through the easy tunnel of life rather than hiking over the mountain. But taking the high road in life is the harder thing to do. It's like climbing over the mountain when you can just sit on a train and go through it instead. And maybe you're drinking on the train cars and you're taking part in all the activities that are going on. And there you got a live band in the train, dude, hanging out, you know, taking life as a worldly approach. But then disciples of Jesus Christ are out here hiking up the snowy peak and dropping down the other side with the wisdom and experience when they meet up with the train again, right? And so, yeah, taking the high road, it's like the higher and holier law, as opposed to just, you know, the laws that they would follow before Christ came. He came and he changed the game, right? He threw a mountain in the way because he moves them. It's our faith that allows us to move mountains. And it's our faith that allows our God to move the mountains in our lives. He'll do whatever he wants. But as far as us to get blessings, the prerequisite for blessings to come is us having faith. And sometimes within that faith, we get things coming up, popping up here and there, left and right and left, front to back, you know, caboose to whatever the front of the train's called. You know, where the conductor sits, unless you sit in the back. Shout out to episode 74 of In the Image Clothing Company podcast. Being behind yourself. I talked about the back of the bus, dude, and all the ways that I did. We talked a lot about some really good stuff in that episode. But yeah, you know, this is something I didn't want to have to deal with. I didn't want it to have to come up again, because why would it? I mean, that's what I've been thinking. That's what I thought on Sunday, as long as that's the date that I noticed the email, right? I was like, yeah, what if I had died an entire year after this event? And then now 6 months after, a whole year came, and I had, you know, been buried under the earth 6 feet. Now they think that they're trying to get money from a dead human or something. It's just like, I mean, you talk about timely matters within legal stuff. Yeah, on whose timeline? Timely matter is not a year and a half later. Oh my gosh, when we've already done all this stuff. I mean, I was sure to do everything I needed to do in the time of the accident and addressing everything I needed. And so it's like, why would it come up now? Well, because I'm getting ready to be baptized again, right? Because of all these other things that I haven't really fully mentioned within my own personal life that are happening, good things, blessings, and you know, things moving that need to, for me to be able to have the impact that I will throughout my life in the ways that I'm placed here to do, right? Because we're on episode 76 of In the Image Clothing Company podcast, and that's a lot that has happened. A lot of good explanation and deep topics that I've discussed, and, you know, I've laid such a foundation partnering with Christ to do what needs to be done within In the Image Clothing Company to, you know, start it out as it needs to be, so it will always be what it is and never change, because we will have laid a foundation to know what to come back to, right? The point is, we always come back to our faith, and sometimes things just come back to bite us, and it's just not the end of the world at any of the times ever. It never will be, is what I mean, because that's the whole thing, you know, is, yeah, we get forgiven no matter how many times we do the same sin we should have never done in the first place, right? A way gets made no matter how many times we think that the dead end has hit us and we shall just lay on the earth and curl into a fetal position and die, right? Yeah. But then a year and a half later, somebody wants some money from you for something that is a thing of the past, right? It's so strange. I mean, human beings all the time, we talk about leaving the past, and then people trying to dig it up. Talk about King Tutankhamun, brother. People are gold digging, literally. That's cool. metaphor-wise. Not so cool that people do that, though, but it happens. It's the world, dude. It is what it is. I'm not going to change it. I didn't design it. I can't decide it. That's another episode of In the Image Clothing Company Podcast's title. So, yeah, bro. We're just out here doing what we do. Things come up and we just roll with the waves, roll with the punches, and just sometimes roll over on our grave and die when things get so hard. Until we got to roll over again because we were uncomfortable in that position, you know? And it's like we still got 6 hours till it's time for us to wake up and do our thing the next morning. So we're trying to get a good night's sleep. And the only way that's going to happen is by having faith in our God, because he's a way maker and he is who he says he is. And so no matter how many years go by and then something comes back to bite you, take a look at your life in those times. And it's probably something big that's about to happen or that's like in the middle of happening or whatever, dude. Something you're thinking about doing or starting. And like you're thinking, man, this is an amazing idea. And all of a sudden something like, you know, throws a whole wrench in your plan and derails your train car, you know. And now you're glad you hiked over the top because you're not trapped in a tunnel. Talk about taking the higher and holier road. Christ came and gave a higher and holier law, dude. Oh my goodness. I'm going to lay down the law. I'm going to lay down, though, at the feet of the law and let it do the things it needs to do to me. And I'm going to just, you know, turn my back to the smiters because whatever's got to come from this will do, right? Like I'm saying, yeah, I'm bent up about it all I need to, but I'm bent out of shape because I'm not a square kid. So, yeah, got a lot of sides to me, right? Like an octopus, got a lot of strength. But all of a sudden, I'm gone, octagon, right? Knocking it out like that southpaw. Like I said, I'm rolling with the punches, rolling in the deep. Shout out to Adele. Adele Computer. Shout out to Ryan Higa. He made a joke about that one time. Adele Computer. Anyway, we're just out here playing with some words, allowing the body to work. The goal is natural. In the Image Clothing Company, we speak truth, dude. We also speak a lot of cool stuff that's just a lot of good insights. If I'm saying it out of my own doing, out of the words that I have said that I'm referring to, yeah, I give a lot of insights. I have a lot of life experience. Age and experience don't always go hand in hand because I'm only 25 years old. And, you know, you've got people that have been here for many decades longer than I have, as far as just on this earth. But sometimes you've got pretty young kids, I mean, actual kids, that have more life experience in a depth and, you know, diverse type of, like, real experience kind of way than somebody who's lived a full 80, 90-year life. It's no comparison, but that's just why I'm saying that, because I'm not comparing to anybody. But I want to make it very clear, and it's just obvious if you hear what I talk about and know who I am in the way that you do, to the degree that you do. I've got a lot of experience, and so there really is a lot of insight that I give, and there really is a lot of understanding that I do have on life. But that always just, it comes through experience, right? And it comes through going through stuff like this. I mean, stuff that you just, you know, kind of want to fold up and throw off the top story of the skyscraper, dude. Have a paper airplane contest with this email. Just hope it never comes back again, you know. But you were in Australia when you took your paper airplane classes. They actually taught you how to make boomerangs instead. So then it just like flies out there, does a full half circle around you, right? And then it comes back to bite you in the back of the head. Sometimes, dude. But it is what it is. We learn from it. But, you know, it's for sins as well, like I'm saying. They come back to bite. You think you've overcome your addictions until you realize there's no such thing as a recovered addict. That's why we use the term recovering for the rest of our life. For the rest of our lives, we're recovering from the human condition, which is sinful by nature, right? For the rest of our lives, we're overcoming the natural man. We're not going to ever overcome the natural man in this life. Right? The journey is the destination. That's a phrase that gets said all the time because it's the truth. If the destination was where we're trying to get, then that's death, right? I mean, that's the end of this life. And so if you're talking about our destination of life and you want like an end point, Well, it's death. And cool, we all do, but we all do die. But while we're here, that's why they say that the journey is the destination, the joy in the journey, all those type of things, and yeah, brother. Sometimes we're looking at things like this and it's not seeming like so much joy to have to sit through an arbitration. I don't really know for sure what that is. I got a little bit of context because they've kind of told me, and I've been dealing with this thing for a year and a half, right, in the ways that I have. So whether that comes up or whether it just doesn't end up happening and it's kind of all talk or whatever, right? Shout out to that episode of In the Image Clothing Company podcast. Do more, say less. A lot of times with this legal stuff, it's just talk, and it never even goes anywhere. I don't see how it could. I mean, I don't. That's why it is what it is. I mean, if there was actually something that just needed to be fully like finalized, okay. But I just at the point of where this specific legal case and this car accident within two human beings that were driving a vehicle, there's one other involved, right? Because there was that woman in the car who's actually the one that's trying to like sue. I guess I think that's what's happening. Is I'm being sued, and so whatever does happen, I mean, things just do, and cool. We address that. I mean, things don't just go away, and I talk about that. So. Yeah, but a lot of times things are just all talk until it comes right down to it, and then it's like, all right, nothing ever happened. You talk and talk and talk for a year and a half, and then the arbitration comes, and I sit there and I'm like, yeah, let me lay down what happened and say it just as it is, right? Just as I laid it out here, just as the proof of the video footage and the eyewitness and the accident itself and the timing and all the things, right? I mean, just talk about things as they are. So, that's how I'm seeing this unfold. And again, if I'm wrong, then I'm wrong. If I got to pay money to whoever and legally that's just what has to happen or else like consequences or whatever, right? Cool. I mean, yeah, I get it. There's an episode of In the Image Clothing Company podcast titled Freedom. And I talked about just, it's good to actually be governed by laws. There's an episode of In the Image Clothing Company podcast titled Whatever I Want. And I went over how we can't just do whatever we want, right? So I get this. And I follow the law. And like, I'm not trying to get out of anything by any means, but it's just, I don't see how anything could come from this, and we'll see if anything does, right? But what I do see has come from it and is coming from it is episode 76 of In the Image Clothing Company podcast, because I'm sitting here talking about it, and people can relate to this, and yeah, something's come back to bite us. And yeah, so we'll wrap it up. As I thought this was a long time ago. It's a year and a half after an accident. I mean, that's the big thing. You want me to pay money to something? Well, cool. You could have let me know way before now. That's the whole thing. It's just, why does it take so long for the legal system to do its thing? I mean, there should be, I don't want to say out of me saying there should or shouldn't, but it seems like there should be some kind of expiration on stuff like that. Like, if you don't try to get money from somebody after something happened by a certain amount of time, then it's like expired and you've lost your chance. Like, that's how I feel it should be. I'm not trying to say because I'm not in charge, but like, that's what it seems like to me. That's what I mean. It's like, it's been a year and a half. What in the world? But things just come back to bite us, dude. Yeah, stuff that's not even our fault is the big thing, right? That's the big thing. So, yeah, stuff that's our fault definitely comes back to bite us. Oh boy. That's why I say we got to address everything that we have done, because we have done it. It doesn't go anywhere. But, sometimes there's things that aren't even our fault, and we didn't choose to be involved in, and we feel like we got dragged into, and sometimes, or whatever, even those things come back to bite us, and we never wanted to be involved in the first place, and now it's back. It's like, what in the world? I don't know, dude. As of right now, like I'm saying, I mean, I've got the understandings of what I do within all this situation of what my life currently is, but there's no complaints. As annoying as it is to have to deal with things, have to have habitual sins keep like nipping at my heels, and this law thing, right? This lawsuit, I guess, right? I mean, this woman's trying to sue me. I don't know. It's the same kind of thing. It feels like it's like nipping at my heels. Something I thought I left in the back, and now it's like coming back to bite me, bro. Little Chihuahua, little Chirana. That's what my friend went to. He went on a mission within the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And where he was at, there was a lot of chihuahuas, those little dogs. And he called them chiranas because he's like a little dinosaur dog, like a rat, those little dogs, dude. That's what I mean. This kind of stuff's coming back to bite you like that. It's just nipping at your heels. It's like, not that you're running from it, but you just thought you left it in the past because you thought you had fully addressed it and, had kind of like overcome it. And now there it is again for the reasons that it is. Everything happens for a reason. So some things just come back to bite you, dude. Those paper airplane boomerangs, dog, hit you in the back of the scalp. Oh, gosh. So the whole thing is just don't lose faith. Talking to myself, whether I watch this in the future and I need to hear it, right? Maybe we live in one eternal round, so it won't be the future. But if I watch this in one of the nows that is not this one, wow, right? That's crazy. Keep talking, dude. The more we try to understand stuff, the more we realize we never quite will. And so that's what I mean, is just having faith that as much as things do make sense, all of a sudden they don't. And that's good, actually, because that means our God is moving in our lives in the ways that he needs things done. So, cool. Yeah. Doesn't mean I'm so happy about it in the times that I don't want to do the things that are coming up, but that in itself is a lesson to not try to seek happiness, not try to seek contentment, but just try to be content having faith. Because that's all we're going to ever have. Like I say, it's not about anything but Jesus Christ. He is the answer to all. He is the answer when there is no answer, right? Because sometimes we're just trying to find one, but there's a lot of things we're not supposed to even know, but they will just happen the way that they do to teach us things. Even if those things that we're being taught is just perspective, right? Like in my case, like I'm talking about how I do have a lot of perspective on life. I have a lot of experience on life. I do have a lot of understandings on things that I can relate to with every human because of how our problems are so similar. And that's actually the beauty of going through a lot of problems is you learn, right? So that's what I mean is we don't need to be feeling a certain way about anything. We just need to have faith knowing that our God is doing what he's doing and that he's above it all. Even if that means that the outcome seems like he maybe should have done something better than he did, right? We're looking at our God like that sometimes. Like I'm saying, right? A year and a half later, and then maybe even more time goes by, and I end up having to pay this person money. It just doesn't make sense in any way of looking at it as it is. But if it just ended up being what it was, then it's not about anything besides, like I'm saying, maybe it's just a test of faith. Maybe it's even if, the outcomes of everything were exactly opposite of what you thought they were going to be, even if everything that you thought you wanted not only didn't happen, but maybe happened and then got stripped from you immediately after or right when it was getting good or whatever, no matter what the outcome on any end of anything, no matter what does come back to bite you ever, no matter what, and no matter what, you got them little chiranas nipping at the heels that you're not running from, but you're just casually walking with that good internal rotation and that natural gait cycle, with your Zero Denver leathers. Shout out to XERO Zero shoes. No affiliation as of today's date or up until, but I love that brand. But you got them little chiranas back there, dog. They're just, barking at your heels, nipping at your heels, and just coming back to bite you for stuff that's not even your fault, but stuff that's just intentionally placed by our God to strengthen our faith. Because if something happens in my time on this earth and I end up in prison, falsely accused, that's the end we focus on, right? Because if I'm doing something wrong and I end up in prison, I wasn't expecting that. But what we're really never expecting is stuff that's like false accusations against us. And that happens. Sometimes people get thrown in, confinement of whatever that means for things that they didn't even do. And they spend, 20, 30, 40, 80 years, no joke, locked up somewhere or under control of somebody else or, paying for their consequences of something they didn't do. Sometimes that just happens. Sometimes we just get falsely accused of things. So that's why I've been so clear to mention in the times that I have within the Image Clothing Company podcast, and just when I talk about the gospel of Jesus Christ, it's not about getting anything. It's not about getting anywhere. It's not about thinking you've overcome something that just keeps seeming to come like, it seems like it comes back to bite you, right? Like our addictions, there's no such thing as a recovered addict. It's you're recovering and it keeps coming back to bite and you keep going closer to Christ, right? No matter what, that's the point, is Jesus Christ in everything, always. He is the answer. And him being the answer isn't any way that any other human being is going to tell you how to have that look, right? Because, like I'm saying, I think I'm all ready to get back baptized into the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints again because I am, like I said, the only thing that is between me and being fully submerged and baptized under the water, right, by a worthy priesthood holder within the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints of the Melchizedek priesthood, is setting a date for that to happen. That's it. I've done all the other things I got to do that. And confirmation couldn't be more confirmation than like 3 hours prior to now, give or take. I don't know how long this has been for sure. I don't see the time counter of the length of this episode here, episode 76 of the Image Clothing Company podcast, titled Back to Bite. But somewhere around 3, maybe 4 hours prior to this exact moment when I'm speaking, the stake president came up to me and he said that I'm cleared for baptism. And I got this whole thing about, just because it's the truth. We don't have to have other human beings clear us, as far as clear our sins, but in ways and things, right? The church is structured how it is, and our faith tells us, right? We don't get to deny our own faith without getting racked with the pains of a damned soul. Shout out to the Book of Mormon, right? Alma the Younger. I've felt the pains of my soul being damned, dude. But I was the one that damned it. I was the one that stopped my own progression. And so, yeah, just meaning sometimes things come back to bite, maybe, as much as I feel like it's going to happen so soon because there's nothing else that has to happen other than just setting a date and getting it done when it comes to me getting baptized, re-baptized. And that's something I never thought would happen, is re-baptism. I was baptized when I was 8 years old into the body of Christ, into the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, the true church. Don't believe me, man, but it's the place to be. But what I'm saying is, who knows, maybe some kind of delay comes up, and I'll knock on, a slab of granite just for the sake of throwing superstitions out the window, but time's flying, and so grab that salt shaker and shake it upside down over your head with some bag of turnip on your toenail or something. I'm just saying, dude, I don't care about any kind of superstition. I care about my God, and I know that sometimes he puts in intentional delays in our lives to kind of set things in place for us so that when we're ready for them, they're ready for us, and vice versa. And so no matter what timings we think we should have things be, and no matter what things we're labeling as something coming back to bite us that maybe we think shouldn't have, there's reasons to everything that happens. And there just is. That's something that, again, if you have faith and you're just open to seeing things as they are, then you can know that. We don't preach a religion here under In the Image Clothing Company podcast. We talk about the truth of all things. And that's restored through the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. It's not some religion to believe in. It's the place you're going to go to know the truth. As bold as that is, whatever, dude. Burn me at the stake. I keep saying this stuff. One day I might get, just straight up killed. Like I said, dude, throw all the superstition stuff all over the place. I don't even care. That's unreal, because it's true. I don't care at all. I'll say whatever I say. Condemn me for it. Them little Chiranas, dude. Coming back to bite you. You say some words and later people throwing them in your face. All right. Do it. Yeah. It makes me emotional. It hits me because that's how we all gotta be, dude. It's just as real as it is. So I'm trying my best to do that and just follow my perfect example, our perfect God, Jesus Christ. He's the way maker, dude, and he's just gonna make us a way to get to the celestial kingdom. We gotta die first, and so you want true peace and happiness? There's some prerequisites, and a lot of that is suffering. But we can have joy in our sufferings. We can have joy in dealing with stuff we don't have to. We can have joy in our sins and our mistakes and in the things that come back to bite us, because each time they do, we can learn deeper of who Christ really is and how he really works in our lives if we're being open and willing to let him. Because wanting our life to go so perfectly in a certain way and whatever because we think we're a Christian and so that's how it should be isn't being open to letting Christ do his thing that he needs to do with us in our lives. Willingly doing what we have to do when things come up like this, and especially when things come back, we thought we overcame, we thought we had dealt with to the degree that we're ever going to have to, right? That's when Christ is really being allowed by us to be used in our lives. Because a lot of times things are just placed just to see if we're willing, you know. If we come at something grudgingly, you know, I'll admit, dude, like I did already, I'm a little bit grudging toward this. I mean, it just doesn't make any sense, but his ways aren't ours, and they're higher, holier, better, perfect, and ours are always not perfect. I'll phrase it, you know, I'll word it correct. Ours are always imperfect, as we are just as human beings. And so when things do come back to bite us, because they do, things that were our fault and things that just never were, and you know, on both ends and on any end of everything, as I say, right? Every end of anything. All the ends of whatever, X amount of who knows, all the things that I say, just because, like, as vague as it gets, it's as real as it is when we're open to just, all right, I'm going to take it. I'm going to deal with it the way that you tell me, God. Not the way that anyone around me is saying, and not the way that my flesh is telling me to hurry and frantically try to solve a problem. But things are coming back to bite me, and I'm still being told, have some faith and take it chill, right? Only take action when you need to. Don't take action out of frantic trying to fix a problem, but do as like first responders do, you know, like the EMTs, people within like firefighter, yeah, right? People who respond to something like an injury or an accident, like a house fire, whatever. Well, or a car accident, you know. I said accident, but like this specific case, the people who show up at the scene when you call the, you know, people, you call 911 in the United States of America. That's the number we call. I don't know if it's similar across the globe or what, but as of right now, I'm not quite sure. It doesn't matter. Just saying, you call the people for help, right? And they come, and those first responders, they come into it, and ideally, meaning the best way they're going to is come into it calm. A situation that they never wanted to have to deal with. They're dealing with people that are bloody a lot of the time, people who aren't breathing, and they have to give like resuscitation to, right? Defibrillators, mouth to mouth, all the things, right? That could come up. They've got a splint, a broken bone, or bone sticking out of a body. And I know that this is getting graphic, but we're real here, dude. This is as real as it gets in the Image Clothing Company. Raw, real, authentic, not beating around the bush, but we're slashing right through it with a chainsaw. Uprooting that thing, dude, and throwing it in a stew of gumbo, right? Because sometimes we get in a slew of problems and we say, no. But that's what I'm saying. Those first responders, they come into stuff they never wanted to have to deal with. Or they dealt with something in the past that was a little bit much and traumatic for them, even if it wasn't their experience. And they think that they never want to have to deal with something like that again. So maybe they're praying like, Father, I don't want to ever have to come up on something like this again that I got to deal with. And then they do. And our God places it perfectly in their path because it's something that they never wanted. And in their idea of it, it's coming back to bite them. But our God is using it to strengthen them. Do you see what I'm talking about? That's what I mean when I say our problems aren't unique. Hypotheticals are universal for every human. Doesn't matter where you at, what time period, what human being, whether you're black or white, whether you're walking on the moon like Michael Jackson, or whether you look like the moon because you're pale as a sunflower seed. Oh, you know, I meant to say pumpkin seed. I think the inside of sunflower seeds, as well, are pale. But the middle of the sunflowers, dude, they got them dark seeds with those little like lighter colored edges. You crack it open and you got that pale inside. I was talking about black people, dude, and I'm gonna keep doing it. I'm gonna keep bringing up some harsh topics. Not that the topic of race is harsh, but people take it harsh, right? But people take the truth to be harsh because the evil and the wicked do, and we're sinful by nature. So hey, we're all evil. But episode 74 of the Image Clothing Company podcast, dude, I was like, who's better, black people or white people? And I'm like, everybody's bones are white. So what does that make? Are white people better then? Or are black people better because they got a contrast? I don't know. I just like to talk about things. Just get as weird as it can be, as real as it can get. Because things are coming back to bite you. You think you overcome the problem of all this race division until somebody thinks that they want to have a topic come up about it again that they've got an opinion on and they want to be better, and then it's just, that's what I'm saying. Problems are universal. Hypotheticals are universal. We're not unique. We're all the same. Sons and daughters of our living God, right? I mean, it is what it is, bro. You got differences in black and white people. Genetically, physically, biologically, like the actual physiology of the human being. You got differences in men and women. Physically, biology-wise, right? I mean, body parts and structures to degrees and in ways, yes, right? Genetically, yeah. But at the same time, we're all the same in the eyes of our God. And so all these things that come up back to bite us, dude, just do like my homie did. Like I said, he was on a mission, man, serving a mission within the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, running into a bunch of these little chiranas, as he'd call them. And what he would do is just bend down and pretend to pick up a rock that wasn't there to throw it at the dog, because that's what people would do. And so the dog would then back up. Sometimes we just gotta pretend to slay the devil, even though we never will, because he's supposed to be what he is. Pick up those individual rocks. Individual, indivisible, all men are created equal. So, an equilateral triangle, that's actually where the Egyptian kings were buried underneath pharaohs of Egyptian times. And so the Trinity of our living God, Jesus the Christ, we're all under him, and we're all going to be ended up 6 feet under anyway. Things are coming back to bite us, but that's fine. Seriously. Because what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. Seriously. Whatever you want to put your focus on in life, if you feel like you got to be so strong, you got to feel so wise, you got to feel so experienced, you got to feel so tough and manly, or you got to feel so brave. A lot of people put focus on individual things like that, but in all seriousness, dude, it's just the more we do go through, the more we grow. And, the only way we're going to actually grow is if we're growing in a direction to where the light is, right? Like a plant coming out of the ground. And Jesus Christ himself is the way, the truth, and the, actually says the life, but he is the light and the light of the world, right? He's the light that casts out all darkness. All darkness is the absence of light. There has to be light for there to even be darkness. And so he's the beginning and the end. He's the Alpha and the Omega. So as much as things are coming back to bite you, let's take it back to basics. Get behind yourself a little bit. Episode 74 of the Image Clothing Company podcast, right? And take it back to the very beginning. Because in the beginning was our God. And so you want things to come back to bite you if we're coming back to the very foundation of what there really is. Because our God is above everything. Even these things that seem so reoccurring problems, reoccurring sins, reoccurring people in our life that we just can't seem to get rid of. That's annoying. That's annoying. Wow, dude. In a sense, that's kind of what this is, It's annoying, and it's okay to be annoyed with things, because there's always going to be things that annoy us as human beings, and we just got to learn how to overcome them. Man, I really thought my jaw was going to pop that time. But yeah, we got to learn how to overcome them, how to deal with stuff that's just always going to pop up, right? I mean, it's like you got a battery-powered boomerang, dude, and it just stays aerial. And, just keeps coming around, dude. Right? Got some solar panels on that thing, dude. It never runs out of power because our God never runs out of light. And sometimes it's hard to see it when going through that dark tunnel, but that's why, again, we take the higher road, bro. Go over the top in the afternoon sun. And that's what they say, right? The light at the end of the tunnel. So that whole high road example I said about the train going through the tunnel. Tunnel vision, man. We talk about that all the time. I don't know who we is when I was saying that. I mean, I have just in my own personal life, but also, yeah, within the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, within the truth of all things, within the gospel of Jesus Christ, within our God's word, you know, having tunnel vision toward Christ. Straight and narrow is the path to eternal life, you know? I mean, we hold on to that iron rod, as it says in Lehi's vision, Lehi's dream, if you will, within the Book of Mormon. The iron rod is just a very straight, narrow path, right? Straight is the gate, narrow is the way. Unless it's the other way around, but the same thing, right? Straight is the way and narrow is the gate to get to eternal life. All eternal life means is just dwelling with our God, with Jesus Christ as he is, as he says he is. Yeah. I really feel that jaw is going to pop, dude. I kind of wanted to do it. I kind of want it to do it through this episode so that you can hear it. It happened in one of these past few episodes here, but just for the sake of In The Image Clothing Company as it is, you know, my jaw is adjusting and people talk about lockjaw. We talk about the truth of all these things, you know, all these problems within human bodies that people put these labels on, but they don't really know what they're stemmed from, and you know, the doctors don't really have fixes to this problems and the root of the thing. They just have things that try to address the symptoms, but they don't get down to the root. So, you know, I'm going through a lot of the same things that a lot of people go through, but I am deepening my understanding of the real reasons as to why they're happening, you know. So just for giving context and you know, making it as real as it is. You can hear my jaw pop if it does, right? And so, but I don't know. It's also just be a good thing because, like I've said, I've got some tension within my jaw, but with context, with understanding, that's a good thing. You know, if I had a problem with the tension in my jaw, what I would need is more context as to why it's there. Okay, and the reason why it's there is because my body's getting more centered. And what I said earlier, right? Don't let me try to tell you something, but it's just the truth. And so, like I say, within In The Image Clothing Company podcast, or just the company in general, In The Image Clothing Company, or Evan Strong and myself, when I'm saying stuff, and sometimes I'm saying things that you might have a problem with, right? That's the whole thing. You got a problem with it, deeper context, deeper explanation that I give, right? And things like that, just meaning stick around if you've got a problem with whatever's going on. It's like this stuff. It's like all the problems that are popping up in my life, right? All these things coming back to bite me that I thought I was done with. Well, if I've got a problem with it, and in some of these things I do, I mean, in all seriousness, like I'm saying, just, you know, there's no perfect Christian that's just like so used to the fact that we're always going to have problems that they don't have a problem with that, right? You can be used to it, but it's still not something that's so fun to experience. And that's the whole point of going through this earthly life, you know, is relying on Christ when we don't want to do things that we have to. Because he is the remedy for any problem and everything, right? Even our lockjaw. Seriously, I mean it. That's so funny. Because it's as real as it is. That's why it's funny. I mean, it's just the truth of all things, the gospel of Jesus Christ. But, yeah, me sticking around when I have a problem with, right, quote unquote, to both of those things, but in all seriousness as well, you know, these things in my life that are coming up and coming back to bite me, what that looks like is just me waiting it out, right? Me just having faith, because maybe it's just a test. Maybe through all this, it just doesn't even end up going any further than this email, except maybe one more that they say, oh, actually, it looks like we don't need to address this any further, right? Okay, great, you know, but then It's just about me having faith. It's about me holding out. It's about me sticking around. That's what I say. You got a problem with us? Stick around, right? You got a problem with the life with the life you live? Yeah, that's beautiful. Actually, I'm gonna say it like that. You got a problem with the life you live? Stick around. Deeper context, deeper understandings, more experiences of things you don't want to have to actually will make your life easier because you'll understand why, to a greater degree than you currently do. You'll understand why you're actually going through these things, and it's because our God teaches us stuff, and He uses imperfect people to do perfect things, and a lot of times, even the prophets are pretty not so fond of having to do certain things that end up becoming stuff that we're reading in the Holy Bible, right? In the Book of Mormon, in these true passages of Scripture. And they weren't so happy about doing stuff that they thought they had overcome by now or whatever. There's stuff like that, stories within Scripture where stuff coming back to bite people, apostles and prophets and stuff from these stories that we get to read about, and they thought they had overcome whatever, and there it is again, Man, I really feel like that jaw's gonna pop, dude. I want it to, for the reasons I said. But anyway, in the Image Clothing Company, man, here we are. I mean, we're just discussing things, bro, and some things just come back to bite you, in any aspect of whatever that could be within the human existence. If it's a spiritual thing, if it's a legal thing, if it's an emotional thing, if it's a relational thing, if it's a sin that you're dealing with, like an addiction, a dependence, whatever it is. If there's, a habit, right? I mean, a person in your life. And again, that's something that's just so annoying. But whatever it is, or a behavior that you're doing, a phrase or some kind of like, nervous habit that you didn't want to keep doing and you thought you overcame, you're picking your nails and you stop it and then it comes back to bite you later, but it's really you biting the tips of your nails off that are so important. We talk about fingernails under In the Image Clothing Company. They got to be clear to the end of the fingers and toes. The nails do to fully support them. Otherwise, your whole body's suffering because they're naturally there to support the hand. Otherwise, the hand's altered and then that travels through the rest of the body. And same with the feet, right? But see what I mean? Stuff comes back to bite you. You think you're over your not so ideal habits, and then there they are again, right? It's fine. Just learn from it when and if and as you do. The big thing is, like I said, part of the way through this, there's no end point. Otherwise, we'd all just die. And we will, but that's what I mean is there's stuff to do before then. In each of our individual cases, we're sent here with a plan. And so, yeah. Anyway, In the Image Clothing Company, last 2 words in our name as 5 words that is the whole, right? Clothing company, we are one. We will have clothing available made out of 100% natural materials. The body is 100% natural, unless you're eating some very unnatural things. Well, then they're not being absorbed into your body anyway. Natural materials is what is needed for the body to be unaltered. And so staying centered, fitting correct, allowing the body to work, those are the things that we will have being the intentions behind all of our designs under In the Image Clothing Company when our clothing is available for you to purchase. If you'd like to, great. If you don't like to, that's okay. You don't have to. No obligation by any means, but it will do, at least to every degree of what we can make it do, what we say that it will. That's the only reason we'd have it, is just to not restrict the body in any way. And so just make sure you're purchasing it in your size if you ever do. Oversized clothing is very, very, very damaging to the body. And I have so much personal experience with that. Stuff that I never would have wanted to have to go through. But now I have the context because of having gone through it, right? So now I'm out here preaching what I practiced, right? On the back end, the past tense. So anyway, yeah. It's the 5th of March, 2025. My name is Evan Strong, the founder of In the Image Clothing Company. Check out the other 2 sides of the company if you want. You don't have to really care about anything we do here, but we really do discuss truth, and you really will be able to get things from all that we do here in the ways that you do. We give context on how the human body works in the only way that it ever will. So, right, that's something great to know because you have one. Because if you're listening to this, you have ears that, he who has ears to hear, let him hear. That's the whole point, right? We're sharing truth across the globe for everybody, to everybody, stuff that applies forever. I'm never going to be perfect at talking about anything exactly as it is because me, myself, I am sinful and I don't know everything. But the stuff that I'm talking about in the ways that it actually is the stuff that will never change. So that's what we are here, dude. So just allow your body to work, brother. Allow your body to work. I think a big thing is this episode 76 of In the Image Clothing Company podcast, it's very similar to that episode of In the Image Clothing Company podcast titled Better at Times. Because sometimes things come back to bite us, and it's maybe us not being as diligent in certain ways as we were at other times, right? And so we feel like we were better at times, and maybe we were, and something's just coming up again, but hey, right? It's just the experience. It's just the journey of life. And that, like we mentioned, that phrase that gets said quite often, the journey is the destination, and it truly is. So we're here to experience it. You can't escape your destination when it's the journey. That's really great, right? I mean, what you're seeking is where you are. And so whatever has come up to bite you right now, it's meant to, and you're supposed to be experiencing it right now in this eternal now that we live for whatever reason it is. And maybe you don't fully understand it. Maybe you won't fully understand it, but it's intentional. Our God is perfect and he orchestrates everything. So, right? Even them little chiranas. Anyway, thank you.